All right, I'm going to go step by step through our review for our test on Friday, so hopefully this helps you out. I have the answers written in already because I'm just using the slides that we saw in class. So hopefully the sound works unlike the last video I did. All right, so number one says find the base of a triangle if the area is 24 centimeters and the height of the triangle is 6 centimeters. So what I'm going to suggest you do is you start with the formula, which is 1/2 base times height, or if you prefer, base times height divide 2. And all you got to do is say, well, what do I know? I know the area is 24, and I know that the height is 6. So now I just have to solve. 24 equals 1/2. Oops, I don't want the 1/2 anywhere, because half of 6 is 3. So I get 3b divide by 3, and you can see how I get a base of 8. And don't forget your labels, because that's also an important part of this. All right, so I get the base to be 8 centimeters. Number 2 is one that I call is a two-stepper. Okay, and the reason I call it kind of a two-stepper is you got to do something before you get to the answer. So for example, some of you are going to say, all right, I got 22 and h. That's my base and height. So the area is 22h. Now that leaves you with an issue because you don't know what the a is and you don't know what the height is, right? But what we need to use is we look for this other perpendicular, which means there must be a second height. So the base is 12 and that height then is 20. I can use that to find the area, which is 12 times 20. And we get 240. Now we can go down here and I can eliminate that second variable, which is a, because I know it's 240. And now I just have to solve for h by dividing by 22. My height is 10.9, and again, don't forget your labels. We're still working in centimeters. Right. You can always check your answer by taking your calculator and going, is 22 times 10.9 240? Because that was the area I got. Right. And the last one says the area of a rectangle is 96 centimeters and the base is 8 centimeters long. What is the height? Any problem that doesn't give you a picture, I would start with a picture. So I have a rectangle. I know that the base is 8. Right, and again, I would look at the formula and go, okay, area is base times height for a rectangle. I know the A is 96. I know the base is 8, so to solve this, I'm just going to need to divide by 8, so my height in this case is 12. And again, you can do the same thing. Oh, I forgot my units. Still in centimeters. You can do the same thing. You can do 8 times 12. Oh, that better give me an area of 96, and it sure does. All right. All right, let's move on to number 4. 4 is very similar to number 2. And a lot of people get confused because of this extra thing here and they go, well, we don't know the whole base. That dashed line is not part of your base. This is really your triangle. That dashed line is only so we can draw this altitude in. Remember, the altitude can occur inside the triangle and outside the triangle. In this case, it's going to fall outside the triangle. So my base is 6 here and my height is 11. Again, start with the formula of 1/2 base times height, because that's the area of a triangle. So I'm going to do 1/2 6 times 11. And I get an area of 33. But the question asked me to find h. Well, I look at 14, and h, that's a base and a height too because it meets at a perpendicular. So now I'm going to go back to my area formula. I know it's 33. And I don't know what the height is, but I do know the base is 14. So I get 33 equals 1/2 14 times h. Well, then that gives me 33 equals 7h. Divide by 7. My height is going to be, must be 4.71. I don't have a calculator pulled up. And again, now we're in inches, so don't forget to label with the correct units. Let's add that one in. All right. And I keep seeing. So the last one on this page, actually there's one more on this page, but the last one that I have on my slide is a trapezoid. And you will be getting a formula sheet on your test, but it is good to have the area of a trapezoid memorized. Its area is 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. This one, I just need to start filling in what I know. It tells me the area is 72. All right. I don't know the height, so I'm going to leave the height. And my base 1 is 13. You can call my base 2 5. So when I start solving this, I end up with 72 equals 1/2 h times 18. Well, half of 18 is 9, so I'm going to do 72 equals 9h. And to finish solving, we're going to divide by 9. H is going to equal 8. And oops, I gave you an area in centimeters, but the sides in inches, so let's go with inches. Another issue with this problem is if this height is 8, it makes absolutely no sense for that to be 3 and this to be 7. So that's an error that we're going to have to correct later on. But for now, we're going to just ignore the 3 and 7 and say we calculated our height to be 8. And the last one on your front page is going to be find the area of a kite that has a diagonal of 7 centimeters and 9 centimeters. Now, if you recall, a kite has two pairs of adjacent congruent sides, so that's what a kite is. And most importantly is it has two diagonals and they meet at a right angle. The area formula for a kite is 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Well, this problem made it nice and easy on you because we know that diagonal 1 or diagonal 2, it doesn't matter which one you call it, is 7, and the other diagonal is 9. And pictorially, that means that this whole thing should be 9, and this whole thing should be 7. So when I do that, I get an area of 31.5 centimeters squared. And I'm just going to continue on to the second page in the same video. So it says, find the area of a circle that has a circumference of 16 pi. Leave your answer in terms of pi. So I would go to my formula sheet and say, well, circumference is 2 pi r. I do know that the circumference is 16 pi, so I'm going to fill that in. So the first step I need to solve to find my radius. I'm going to divide by 2 pi on both sides. I'm left with r equals, the pi's are going to cancel, and 16 divided 2 is 8. Now that's a good point to get to, but don't stop there because it says find the area of the circle. So then I would go, well, I know the area is pi r squared. So the area of this particular circle is going to be pi 8 squared, which ends up being 64 pi. And I did not give you any units on this one, so we'll just call it units squared. Now, and careful with this one, it says leave your answer in terms of pi, so don't take your calculator and do 64 times 3.14. It wants you to just leave the pi on the end. All right, number 8 and 9 are probably one of the tougher ones we've come across so far. I'm going to use the space below down here. It says find the area of a regular pentagon where each side is 4.4 centimeters long. So again, whenever you have something that doesn't give you a picture, draw one. So there is my pentagon, as regular as I can get it. And we know that this side length to start is 4.4. And, oopsie, got my marker. If I look at the formula sheet, I see that the area of a regular polygon is 1/2 PA, where P stands for perimeter. A is that funny word, the apothem. All right, so we could easily find the perimeter so far. So I'm going to start my formula over here. The perimeter is going to be 4.4 times 5 sides, which gives me 22. So I know my perimeter is 22. The only thing I'm missing is my A. So when I go to draw that in, I'm going to have to calculate this. There's no measuring involved. I have to calculate what that is. And the best way to calculate is to form a right angle or a right triangle. Well, if this whole side's 4.4, I know that's 2.2. I need to find my apothem. So the big clue is I need to either find this top angle or this bottom angle. I usually go for that top angle because it's the same process every time. So what I want you to think about is if I had this whole angle, it would be 360 degrees. And I'm dividing that amongst 5 sides, or in other words, it's 5 triangles if I could form that in here. And that gives me 72 degrees. But if I were to draw that whole triangle, and I really only have half of that triangle, so I'm going to divide it by 2 again. And I get 36 degrees for that top angle. Okay, now that I know that, I can use trig to find out what the area is, or what the apothem is, excuse me. This is the opposite side, and this is the adjacent side. So I'm going to be using TOA. So I get tan of 36 degrees equals my opposite side, which is 2.2, over my apothem. And when I cross multiply, I get a times tan of 36 equals 2.2. Divide by tan of 36. And I get a is equal to, I believe you get 1.99. Well, now that I know my a, I'm going to go back up to my original formula that I did, and I already know the perimeter is 22. All I got to do is substitute 1.99, and I get my final area to be 33.3. Okay, oops, take that back. I'm thinking of a different problem. When you solve this, you get 3.03. Excuse me, I've done too many problems and I don't have a calculator on me. The area is, or the apothem is 3.03. Right, so I'd go back up here. Oops, big mess up. Apothem is not 1.99. It's 3.03. You got the idea, though, of how you find the apothem. And then go back up to your original formula and solve for the area. Okay. All right, and number 9 is very similar. So I'm going to erase the work I've done for number 8. Number 9 is the same idea, except I don't need to find the area. I just need to find the apothem. So when you hear the word octagon, you should think stop sign. Draw your stop sign. And we know the side length is 9, and again, we have to draw in the apothem, and that's what's going to form our right triangle. We know this then is 4.5. And again, we need to find either this upper angle or this side angle. I usually do the upper one. So to find that angle, I'm going to do 360 divided by 8 sides, or 8 triangles I can fit in there. And I get 45. Now, that's, remember, only half of the triangle that's created. So I need to divide that by 2 again and get that angle to be 22.5. So this top angle is 22.5. And it's actually the same setup now as the previous one. I know the opposite side, and I'm trying to find the adjacent side, or my apothem. So I'm going to use tangent of 22.5 equals 4.5 over a. I'm going to cross multiply, get a times tan of 22.5 equals 4.5. And I am not sure I remember this off the top of my head, so I'm going to go grab my calculator. Give me one brief second. I'm going to do 4.5 divided by tan of 22.5. And I get 10.9 for my apothem. Oh, I could have just looked up at the answer I already have written. And again, don't forget your units, which is centimeters in this case. All right, we might as well just finish up this page before I start a new video. So I believe we have 10 and 11 left on this page. And these ones are also involving trig, so they go right along with number 8 and 9. So this is a rectangle. I have this angle, and I know this side. So our goal is to find that side. We're going to pretend we don't see it. Because to find the area of a triangle, we need base and height. We have our height, or the area of a rectangle. Man, really struggling. Find the area of a rectangle, we need the base and the height. Right, so we have the opposite side, and we're trying to find the adjacent side. So again, I'm going to use tangent. So tangent of 19 degrees equals 4 over, we'll call it b since that's really my base. And cross multiply, and in the end, I'm going to get my base to be 11.61. Well, now I go back to my area formula, which is base times height. My base I now know is 11.61, and they gave me my height of 4. My final area is 46.46, and in this case it's an area, so I'm going to use centimeters squared as my label. All right, so that was pretty quick for trig. This trapezoid is also very similar, so let's pretend like we don't have this. When you're looking at this, you're going, all right, well, I know the base, I know the other base, And I also know there's 4.4 here. And some of you then are going to be inclined to say, oh, that must be my height. But remember, a height always has to meet at a right angle. So that's actually what the height of this trapezoid is going to look like. I could draw another one over here. However, I don't know the angle over there, so I can't use trig. All right. So for this one, we're going to call this h because that's my height. That is the opposite side, and this is the hypotenuse. So I'm not using tangent anymore. I'm using sine. So I have sine of my angle, which is 58.03, equals my opposite side, which is h, over my hypotenuse, which is 4.44. Cross multiply, I get my height to be 3.77. Now, they didn't ask me to find my height, they asked me to find my area, so this is one piece to the puzzle. The height is 3.77. I now go to look for the formula of trapezoid, which again, you should try to have this memorized, which is 1/2 h b1 plus b2. 1/2, I now know my height is 3.77, times base 1 is 13.04 plus base 2, which is 8.29. Now, when you're entering this in your calculator, be careful. I would always add these two together first before I start calculating anything. So 1/2 times 3.77 times 21.33. And let's see what I get when I calculate that. I get the area to be 40.21, we'll say. And again, I forgot to give you any units, so we'll just write unit squared. Okay. So I hope that helps you with page 1 and 2 on the review. I will be making another video right now to have pages 3 and 4.